Not all physical exercise is suitable for everyone. Take into account factors such as strength, flexibility, and overall health to determine if a particular movement or pose is appropriate for you. This, like any other activity that involves physical movement, can result in personal injury. Any injury sustained from proper or improper use of the following session is solely the responsibility of the user. If in doubt, it is recommended that you consult a healthcare professional before engaging in any new physical routine. Welcome to your yoga practice. A practice that requires breath, movement, and paying attention. As we practice today, notice the modifications that are offered and follow those that best conform to your physical and mental state today, respecting at all times your body and ability. We will begin in mountain pose, bringing the outside edges of the feet parallel and feet hip-width apart. Spread the toes and lift through that lower belly. Take a peek at your feet. Lift all 10 toes and just softly lengthen and spread them down on the mat. Finding here your breath and setting the intention to breathe, move, and pay attention in the present moment on purpose and non-judgmentally. Finding your breath, those inhales and exhales happening in the chest, the rib cage and the belly. Rooting down through the feet and feeling stable, centered. Making that breath a little bit deeper. And as we begin to move, pair that breath with that movement. Your next inhale will bend the knees and will sit down in an imaginary chair. Chair pose. Bringing the hands to the heart. Your next inhale, lifting up, lengthening the legs, arms overhead. And exhale, hands to the heart, mountain pose. Inhale again, bending those knees, sitting down. Exhale, hands to the heart. Pressing through the feet, inhale to rise up to stand. And exhale again, hands to the heart, pressing the palms together, spreading the elbows. Inhale, come back into your chair pose, sending weight into the heels. And exhale, hands to the heart. This time stay here and breathe. Notice if any tension begins to happen in the face. And as best you can, try to soften that jaw, soften the gaze. Keep bringing your awareness to your breath and the sensations of the breath. So you inhale, rise up, lengthen the legs and the arms, and exhale, this time forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. And exhale, forward fold. As you inhale, keep the arms and the head heavy, and vertebra by vertebra begin to rise up to stand. Inhale, arms lift. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway, long spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, slowly, heavy head, arms, shoulders rising up to stand. And exhale, shoulders away from the ears. Bend the knees, inhale into chair pose. And exhale, bring the hands to the heart. And notice here, might be some struggle, some effort, but can you find some ease? As you inhale, lengthen the legs, arms overhead, and exhale, out and down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, and exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift, and exhale, fold. And one more time, halfway lift. Notice how those shoulders move away from the ears and down the back, and fold, exhale. As you inhale here, grab opposite elbows and then exhale. Make yourself just heavy in that upper body. You might bend the knees for a bit more comfort. And maybe allow the exhales to be mouth open exhales. And then releasing those elbows and vertebra by vertebra, rising up to stand, sending those shoulder blades down the back, reaching the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. And inhale, arms lift. And exhale to find a side stretch. So you inhale, lift through center. And switching sides, feeling space between the ribs. Inhale, center, and out and down, forward fold, exhale. Inhale, halfway, and exhale, plant the hands and step the feet back to find that upside down V shape, downward facing dog, sending weight into those legs, spreading the fingers and sending those shoulders down, away from the ears, down the back. If at any point downward facing dog becomes too much, please lower into child's pose, lowering the knees to the mat and bringing those sit bones towards your heels. For your next inhale from downward facing dog, walking those feet towards the hands. And exhaling to fold forward. Inhale as you actively rise up, so those arms are wide and that spine is long. And exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, bend the knees and find chair pose. And exhale, hands to the heart. Just make sure that you're not gripping through the toes. So lift all 10 toes and spread them and just softly drop them onto the mat. Soften the face, soften the jaw. As you inhale, press through the feet, lengthen the legs, arms reach up and find your side stretch, exhale. Switching sides. And inhaling back through center. Exhale out and down, reaching and lowering. And inhale, halfway lift. Stepping the feet back, exhaling into downward facing dog, spreading those fingers, making sure that you spread the weight, that it's not concentrating only on the base of the hand and the wrist. Your next inhale, coming out into plank pose, so those shoulders are coming straight over the wrists. The belly stays engaged, and imagine your body being just like a plank. If that's not happening, lower your knees down to the mat. With your next exhale, lift the sit bones up and back and find downward facing dog. Moving through this transition with your inhale coming back out into plank. And with your exhale, reaching up and back, downward facing dog. And one more time, inhaling out into plank pose. And exhale, downward facing dog. In this down dog, paying attention to that grounding through the hands, spreading those fingers, sending the shoulders away from the ears. And as you breathe in, walking those feet towards the hands, and forward fold, exhale. Actively rising up, inhale, and hands come to the heart, exhale. Inhale, chair pose. And exhale, bring those hands to the heart. Finding a steady breath. Maybe with your next inhale, the heels lift off the mat. Keeping that steady gaze and softness in the face. Breathing in to straighten the legs, lower those heels, arms lift, and then exhale, forward fold. Inhale to a halfway lift, long spine. And exhale, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale out into plank pose. And as you exhale with control, lower to the mat. Keep that belly engaged. Inhale, finding cobra pose, gaze stays down. And exhale, lower. And inhale, cobra pose, engage the legs. And exhale, lower. And one last time, inhaling cobra pose. And making your way back into downward facing dog. Exhale. Inhale, the right leg rises straight behind you. And exhale, lower it down. Left leg rises, inhale, straight behind you. Keep pushing the chest towards the thighs and lower it down. Inhale, make your way out into plank. And stay. Exhale. Keeping those lower ribs coming towards one another, keeping that engagement in the belly, and pressing the heels back away from the top of the head. With your next exhale, keep the elbows by the ribs, lowering the knees whenever you need to. Lower all the way down to the mat. Inhale into cobra. Lower, exhale. Inhale again, cobra. Sending the shoulders away from the ears. Exhaling to lower. And then finding your way back into downward facing dog. Breathing in. And breathing out. Inhaling, walking those feet towards the hands. And exhale, forward fold. Active rise up, inhale. And hands to your heart, exhale. Inhale, chair pose. And exhale, hands to the heart. Staying in this chair pose, and then notice any struggle. As you inhale, the arms will open out into a T, but keep those knees bending. The left elbow will come over the right. You might then bring the hands to the shoulders, or you might bring the forearms parallel to one another and perpendicular to the ground. These are eagle arms. Keep lifting those elbows, align those elbows with the shoulders, and keep sending those forearms away from the face. And where's your breath? Unwind the arms as you inhale, straighten the legs, arms overhead, and exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift, inhale, and downward facing dog, exhale. Inhale, the right leg will rise, and exhale, lower it down. Switching, inhale, left leg rises, and lower that leg down, exhale. Inhaling out into plank pose. And exhale, lower to the mat. Inhale to find your cobra pose or upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, the right leg rises. And exhale to plant that foot between your hands. You might step it in a few steps. You want that right heel to be straight under the right knee. And as you inhale, bring the chest through the arms and drop the hips. As you exhale, straighten that front leg, send those sit bones up and back. And 2 more times, inhaling to come forward, dropping the hips, feeling a stretch in the left hip crease, and exhaling, feeling that stretch in the right hamstring. With your next inhale, coming back to the top of the mat, halfway lift, and exhale to fold forward. Inhaling, actively rise up to stand, and exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, chair pose, and exhale, hands to the heart. Finding eagle arms on the other side, open the arms out into a T on an inhale. And then on your exhale, the right elbow comes under the left, bringing the hands to the shoulders or bringing those forearms perpendicular to the ground. Breathing into the front of the body and also into the back body, the space between the shoulder blades. As you inhale, straighten the legs and the arms, and exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, and planting the hands downward facing dog, exhale. Inhale, left leg lifts straight behind you. And exhale, one step, two or three, step that foot between the hands. Inhale, dropping the hips and lifting through the chest, finding that cow lunge variation. And exhale to straighten that front leg, finding that stretch in the hamstring. And that cat lunge variation. Repeating 2 more times. And then from that hamstring stretch, stepping to the front of the mat, halfway lift, and then folding forward, exhale. And finding a resting forward fold here. So for that, you might bend the knees, let that chest rest on the thighs. You might grab opposite elbows in front or behind the legs, letting that head be heavy, letting that neck lengthen. You might play with straightening the legs a little further and just finding a bit more of a stretch in the back of the legs. And let those exhales drop out of the mouth. Your next inhale, release those elbows and find your chair pose. Bringing hands to the heart as you exhale. And staying with your breath, noticing what happens in the mind when we are efforting in our physical body. Notice if there is urge to move out of the pose. And whenever that arises, take a full breath in and a full breath out, and then revisit that feeling. In this chair pose, you might decide to again lift those heels, coming onto the ball of the foot, bringing that lower belly up and in and softening the face, allowing yourself to come in and out of the pose. For your next inhale, straightening the legs, straightening the arms, rising up to stand, and exhale, finding a side stretch, lengthening the side body, breathing into those ribs, and finding the variation that works for you today. Coming back through center on an inhale and switching sides. Using those inhales to find space between the ribs and those exhales to send that belly towards the spine. And inhale, rise back through center. And exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift, inhale. And planting the hands on the mat, stepping back into downward facing dog. Spreading those fingers. And with your next exhale, lowering the knees down and finding child's pose. Sit bones towards the heels. And leaving the arms in front of you, or maybe bringing the arms by your side, palms facing up. Giving those shoulders a nice rest. Allowing the exhales to make you a little heavier into the mat. And noticing what happens when we find stillness. Noticing that jumping of the mind here and there, thoughts coming in and out. Your next inhale, make your way onto your belly. Bring those hands to the outside edges of the mat, planting the fingertips, keeping the palms lifted, and try to bring those wrists straight under the elbows bend at a 90-degree angle. For your next inhale, press into those fingertips and lift the chest. As you exhale, just lower the chest down. Keep that gaze down and keep those legs active. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. And inhale one more time, lifting and lowering, exhale. And bringing those arms in front of you, making a pillow for your forehead. And resting that head on the forearms. Maybe wiggling the hips side to side slightly. Maybe bringing those big toes to touch and letting the heels fall away from one another. Being on your belly is a great place to notice the breath. Notice those inhales as the belly and chest fill and move against the mat. And notice as you exhale, that belly moves away from the mat and towards the spine. So being with that wave of breath and realizing here that even if apparently we are in stillness, there's a lot going on in the body that we can pay attention to and we can focus on. And from here, bringing then the hands under the shoulders and switching back into child's pose. This time you might choose to bring the knees wide. Bring the big toes to touch and let those sit bones again lower back to the heels. The arms might be right in front of you, and then bring those palms together. Thumbs pointing up towards the ceiling. And then bend the elbows and bring those thumbs to the back of the neck. Again, resting, letting those exhales release any tension that right now doesn't serve you. And with each breath, your body, your physical body begins to realize that it can let go. Now we practice being patient, compassionate. And then from here, bringing those arms straight in front of you, making your way back into downward facing dog. Lifting those sit bones up and back. Just feel that length from tailbone to top of the head. And inhale, come out into plank pose. Still feel length from tailbone to top of the head. Spreading those collarbones. You might stay with the feet on the mat or the knees on the mat, or you might decide to find a bit more challenge or physical challenge by lifting one leg and then the other. Keep that core engaged. Your next exhale, lift those sit bones up and back and downward facing dog. And inhale, walking the feet towards the hands, forward fold, exhale. Inhale into chair pose and exhale, hands to the heart. You might decide to lift those heels, spread those toes, and then lower the heels if they're lifted. Lengthen the legs, rise up to stand, arms lift overhead, and find that side stretch. Maybe this time palms stay touching. And switching sides, exhale. Rising through center, inhale. And out and down, forward fold, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. And forward fold, exhale. And keep bending the knees here. And eventually lower those sit bones down onto the mat. You might keep bending the knees, letting those sit bones reach for the heels, and eventually trusting that the mat is underneath you and that you can release down. Or at any point you could bring your hands by your side and lower to the mat. Plant the feet, knees bent, and inhale as the arms reach forward. And exhale, come halfway down. And again, inhale, rise up that chest again towards the knees. And exhale, halfway down. Here, take a full breath in. And with your last exhale, lower all the way to the mat. Bringing those heels in towards the sit bones, preparing for a bridge pose. So ideally you should be able to touch those heels with your hands, arms by your side. It doesn't always happen. What you want is those ankles to be straight under the knees. As you inhale, lift the hips, lift that lower back. And as you exhale, just keep that gaze down the midline and watch the rise and fall of the breath. With your next exhale, imagine reaching those sit bones towards the heels and lowering the hips and the spine back down to the mat. Open up the arms into a T and find a spinal twist as you drop the knees towards your right and you gaze over the left fingertips. With your inhale, the knees rise through center. And with your exhale, the knees drop to the opposite side. And inhale back, knees through center. And exhale, just let those knees rest against one another. Maybe you step the feet a little wider. And bring one hand to the heart and one hand to the belly. And begin to slow down that breath if you haven't already. Begin to make those inhales a little longer, those exhales even longer. Signaling to the physical body, the nervous system, that it's okay to relax. Letting those exhales flow out. Letting yourself get heavier and heavier on the mat. Preparing for Shavasana. And you might keep the knees bent and hands at the belly and heart, or you might decide to lengthen those legs on the mat. Wherever you are, this is supposed to be a place where the body is at ease. And you can observe and witness what happens with the mind, how those thoughts flow in and out, how they lead to one thought and then another. And practice being aware of this without engaging, just watching the thoughts arrive, linger, and trusting that eventually they will leave. And staying here for as long as it feels right for you today. Acknowledging the effort that it took to make time and space for your practice. And thanking yourself for that.